Welcome back to ARC Maine. We're excited for a weekend full of slurping Maine oysters. That's what you can do next weekend, June 28th and 29th at the Maine Oyster Festival in Freeport.
This is the 4th annual celebration of Maine oysters, and joining us this morning to explain more about the event is Allie Sawyer, the general manager of the Freeport Oyster Bar, and Margaret Hoffman with Visit Freeport. Thank you guys so much for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having us.
This is super exciting. We're big oyster fans
here.
Oh,
we sure are.
All right, so how did this event come to be? This is the 4th annual one. What was the idea that sparked this?
It started with actually the owner of the Freeport Oyster Bar, Allie's boss, Ken Sparta, came to my colleagues and I and said, we really need a statewide celebration of oysters. There are a couple other really wonderful events. They're either dedicated to only one fishery, one area, or they're a little pricier and limited in capacity. So they wanted a big celebration that was easily accessible to lots of people.
What do you love most about this event and being part of it?
It's kind of, we call it our Super Bowl at the Freeport Oyster Bar. It's the beginning of summer. You know, we have all these new staff members joining us, and it's like we kick off summer with like our busiest weekend of the year. So it kind of like sets the tone for summer, and we get to celebrate oysters, which, you know, we do every day, but we do it in excess that weekend, so it's really fun.
And oysters in general, they're a staple when you come to Maine too. So what is so delicious and fascinating about Maine oysters specifically? I know that there are so many different kinds, but what about the Maine waters help these oysters?
I think that Maine oysters are special because of our cold waters, our cold, clean waters. It's also really unique that all the different farms farm in a different way. They're in a different area, depending on when they harvest and tides. Like, they can all taste different, which is really unique. It's kind of like with wine, they call it terroir. With oysters, it's merroir. So it's, you know, it's unique to the spot where they're grown, which is really cool.
Yeah, and as we said, this is the 4th year for this. How have you seen this event grow in popularity? Are people like, okay, I'm already excited for next year?
Absolutely. They book while they're here for where they want to stay for the following year, and they come from all over the country. Maine oysters really are a delicacy. They're very special compared to oysters from other areas, again, because of that cold water. So we have folks that are coming from Missouri and Texas and Washington State and parts of Canada, all over, just to have this opportunity to taste so many different kinds of oysters, or farms oysters, in one location. Because generally a restaurant might have 3 or 4 farms, but to have over 24 in one place is pretty special.
Yeah.
And that actually goes into a little bit of our next question. So not only will the festival be highlighting Maine oysters, but also the 100+ oyster farms up and down the Maine coastline. How many oyster farms and mobile shuckers will be present at the festival?
So again, there'll be about 24 different kinds of oysters available from the farm booth and from the mobile shuckers. There are more than 60 booths this year. Most of those are farms and shucking stations, as well as food trucks and food purveyors, because there is something for everyone. So even if you don't like a Maine oyster, you can't have the excuse that you didn't come.
Yes.
Most of the oyster farmers also grow kelp or scallops or other crops, because it is seasonal sometimes, although they can harvest year-round. It gives them a financial backing too, to be able to have multiple crops. So we also highlight those products too. So if you love kelp or you love other kinds of seafood, you're going to find something there as well.
I imagine it is sort of almost like a wine tasting, where you're trying different oysters and, oh yes, I'm tasting brine in this one.
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
You know, something
They're all going to taste
so
different, which is, and you can get, you know, 12 tickets and have your dozen oysters, but you could try 12 different farms.
Exactly.
With those tickets, so it's really a unique experience.
Yeah, and actually,
There's even room in the festival brochure that you can pick up a printed copy or print it out at home yourself. There's room for your tasting notes so that you can keep track of what you liked or didn't like about each oyster.
That's great.
Amazing. And you talked a little bit about the ticket system. How will that work? How does the oyster tasting work at the festival?
I'll let you take that one.
So the festival itself is free. There's no admission.
Perfect.
There's also a free shuttle. So if you don't want to park downtown, you could park at LL Bean headquarters and take the shuttle right into downtown. And the way that the ticketing system works is that all the raw oysters are the same price. It's one ticket is $3, equals one raw oyster from any shucking location. So it also puts all of the oysters on an even playing field that way. There's a ticketing station that'll be right at the entrance to the festival area, where you can pick up your tickets, or you can order them in advance and we'll have them packed and ready for you to pick up.
Amazing. And how do you choose where you get your oysters from?
So for the festival, we actually try and highlight farms that we love that aren't coming to the festival. So this year, I believe we're highlighting Naughty Sisters and Saltwind Sea Farm. So those are two of like our favorites, but they're not joining us at the festival. So like that's how we can kind of highlight. But you know, we try to spread the love around as much as possible. We have a couple favorites that we, you know, play favorite with for sure. If it's a, you know, a good quality oyster, it's nice to shuck, like that's always taken into consideration.
Definitely.
Amazing. Then real quickly, the big shuck will take place on Sunday, June 29th at noon. Can you guys talk a little bit pretty quickly about what that's about?
Sure. So those are hand-picked professionals. So they're either from the aquaculture industry or the restaurant industry. There's a couple that are nationally placed shuckers, and they'll shuck 24 oysters, not only as fast as they can, but as cleanly as they can. There's a whole point system that they get judged on. And this year, we really hope we'll maybe have a new winner. No offense to Andy Rogers, who owns the Jolly Rogers Raw Bar in Wiscasset, but Andy has won all 3 years so far, and so this year we'll see if the competition heats up a little bit. We've got a few new competitors that maybe will give him a challenge.
I have competed and failed.
This sounds like such a blast. And real quick, just for parking purposes and where exactly it's happening, can you just let everybody know?
So the festival is on the LLBN campus on Discovery Park. There's live music there all weekend, and it's also in the parking lot behind the 40 block of Main Street, which is where the Freeport Oyster Bar, the Freeport Historical Society, Lobster Cooker are all located. So it's in that large parking lot behind. If you don't want to try to park in town, it is free and plentiful parking. I always tell people a pro tip is to park in the parking garage at Freeport Village Station. People oftentimes forget about that. But you can also park at LLBN headquarters, which is on Lower Route 1 at Casco Street, and there is a free complimentary shuttle that will drop you off right on Nathan Nye at the entrance to both sides of the festival.
Amazing. What's a good website that people can find all this information at?
TheMaineOysterFestival.com. They can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're profiling all of the different farms and vendors that are coming, as well as all the musicians that are performing on those 2 stages throughout the weekend.
Should be a shucking good time. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.